Greetings, everybody! You know, I was just looking at my environment here and realized that it was missing a lot of basically everything. And mainly, the kitties need a place to actually roam around or to actually live in. In the moment, it's kind of a square that drops off into infinity, and if you can call that brown tent thing a tent, well then okay, but I don't, so it's not. So I could go into landscape mode and start trying to take the ground out like that and like this or like this and try to, poke a hole into it or something, this. But that won't really work. I've tried it and it doesn't work. So we're going to approach this a little differently. So we're just going to erase all of that and get to work on blocking out my layout. So the layout I want to make for this is inspired by Aaron Hunter's Warrior Cats, which I read one of the books and really enjoyed imagining the layout and found lots of photos and pictures of it. So I thought it would be really cool to have something inspired by that but still have its own spin to it. So to start off, I'm going to take a couple different shapes like cylinders and round objects to wall off my kitty environment because I want this to be blocked off but not feel inclusive or not enough space. So I wanted to have some round areas and then cut some holes into the side for a river running through the middle. I found this really awesome built into Unreal plugin that automatically creates rivers. So it will bring in a spline, which is just, an object you can control, it looks kind of like a snake, a wet snake. But it automatically creates a river, and with my anime shader, it already looks pretty good. In the future, I want to create my own water material that looks more anime and has more style to what I'm leaning towards. Because even though this looks nice, it still doesn't look quite the way I was envisioning it. Don't mind that cat you just saw floating over the water. Totally natural. So we're going to just move on with that. Now over here to this monstrosity of a tent, we're going to erase that and put in another stand-in that looks better, so don't worry. So I'm going to grab another round object. This is going to be a very round game. So I'm going to take that and add a stand-in. Now the design for this object looks kind of like wolf dens, like natural wolf dens or miniature caves. Only big enough for a couple of small animals at most. So into Blender, we're going to start by putting in a cube. A cube is my favorite shape to start out. It basically was the building block, building cube, of everything in my game that I created by hand. So for this, it's going to be a cube, and I'm going to mirror it along the middle. Just like that, and hide that miniature cube I made. Now we're going to start blocking it off. No, it looks so good right now. I think I'll just import it like this. I'm kidding. Now we're going to give it a subdivision surface, which just smooths it out, so that way it can be better. And now it just comes the shaping part and building it up the way it's supposed to look. So what is the purpose of these little dens or little caves or whatever you want to call them? Well, first of all, they'll house the cats, so that way they're not all on your screen at one time, which can get a little chaotic. But they will also help for upgrades, so there'll be specific cat dens or caves that will house specific types of cats, like hunters or scouts, so these will help upgrade them. once we're done with the modeling part, then we go on to the sculpting. Sculpting would be pretty easy, especially for something like this, where I can just take the brush and kind of dab on some of the extra rocky materials of it. So I'm going to start by doing that and mirroring it so that I don't have one side that's less than the others, and just make some rocks around it. After the main sculpting is done, we have to add those final touches after I shade the object smooth. Basically, shading it smooth is just smoothing out all of those polygon shapes that make up the object. So if I don't do that, well then the anime shader I have in Blender that actually makes everything look anime won't react to the object very well. It'll make sharp shadows, and that won't work very well. Alright, so the sculpting seems to be done. So the only thing that we have to do with it right at this moment is to export it and bring it into Unreal. So in Unreal, I'm just going to bring it in, add a new folder for it. I'm not the most organized person in the world, but I'm working on that. So we'll just add another folder for caves, and we'll bring in what I exported. So here it is, kind of pitch black and big, but that can be changed. So this is what it looks like compared to the count. One thing I forgot to do was to give this a little bit of asymmetry. So no cave or any object really is perfectly symmetrical. Now for many things you can fake it or change it up. So for my cats, I can keep them basically perfectly symmetrical. But for something like this, you actually have to change it so that it's asymmetrical. So we're going to just change it up and give it a little less symmetry. So right now I'm just going to give it a material, which is just going to be some stony rock with moss on it. So I like that sort of mossy idea towards it. So I'm going to add a bunch of lerp nodes, which mixes different colors and textures. And I have a moss texture that I'll be mixing with it. And with the moss textures, I'm going to get some rock textures. I got these off of Fab, but I'm going to make my own very soon. So right now, I'm just going to find it. Here it is. And I'll bring in the rocks and do some magic with it. Now, if I'm being honest, I do not know exactly what every single node here does. So the dot, which I don't really use, and the vertex normal, which I can only have an educated guess, is where the moss is actually located. I was following a tutorial, and so I don't know exactly what everything here does. The basics of it, though, is that it's figuring out where to place the moss relative to the object. So wherever the moss is, wherever it's supposed to be, like the texture coordinate, that also determines it. So with all these nodes, it will determine where the moss is supposed to be on top of the rocky texture. Now the noise X and noise Y will just help me, they are parameters. So there are multiple parameters here like the blend sharpness or noise X and noise Y, which will just help me control what it actually looks like. So how much moss there is, where it's located, how sharply it blends in and out with the rocks. So with all of the data there, we can place it in, and you can see now there's there's moss all over. I'm going to create a material instance so that I can edit material instance. Allows me to edit it on the fly instead of having to go into the actual material every time. Oh, I made a mistake. It's not supposed to be called noise X and noise Y. Grass X and grass Y. I don't know why I called it grass instead of moss, but I did. So I can edit it around, and now I have a mossy, nice looking den. Now we have a mossy and rocky den right here, perfectly cat-sized. I hope you enjoyed following along with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!